Welcome to the Phillip Wylie Show. Take a look behind the curtain of professional hacking and hear compelling discussions with guests from diverse backgrounds who share a common curiosity and passion for challenges and their job. And now, here's your host, offensive security professional, educator, mentor, and author, Phillip Wylie.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Phillip Wylie Show. This is actually the first episode recorded of 2026 and the second episode because the previous episode with Ron Eddings was recorded in December, and after that I took a break. But I'm back and excited to be joined by my two good friends, Jason and Kevin from the Cyber Distortion Podcast and also part of the Cyber Circus Network. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phillip. Thanks for having us again.
Yeah, it's great to have you guys on. Wanted to get you guys back because the last time you guys were on, we're on with Chris from Barcode and was really talking more about the Lone Star Cyber Circus and Cyber Circus Network. And so this time we can dig a little bit more down into you guys and let people learn more about you and what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
So before we get started too far into things, I always have my guests share their hacker origin stories. So if you wouldn't mind sharing your hacker origin story with the audience.
Yeah, Kevin, let's hear it.
Jason, you first or me?
You,
Okay,
Kevin.
I'll go. So mine is not super sexy, but it's funny because I never went to college for computer science. I actually went for marketing and graphic design. So that's where, you guys know I get into the editing and I get into all the artsy fartsy graphics and, making stuff look cool. But that's where that comes from. And so I went to college for that, ended up doing that for a few years and was working for a company over in North Texas where we were building programs for pilots on, they were animated programs, 3D animated programs to teach them about all the different systems in the aircraft. And a couple of the guys were a little jealous of the two IT dudes who always got to play with all the cool gadgets and the fun stuff. So we got to talking to them one day and I don't know, somehow they talked about, their salary. And we're like, what? We're over here making scraps compared to what you guys make. And somebody mentioned, yeah, if you go out and get your Microsoft certifications right now, you're guaranteed K a year to start, which was way more than we were making at the time. And so 6 of us enrolled to do the Microsoft boot camp. 2 of us finished it. I was one of those. And the other gentleman that finished it actually became a custom home builder after we left that company. And I'm the only one that took the path of IT and am still there today. And this was, 26 years ago, still with the same company. So I'm basically a practitioner, come from the roots of network administration, network engineering, and then kind of worked my way up into management, just basically from being there for so long. And that's what I do today. So
Very cool.
spun out of graphic design.
I will tell you this, man. Everybody needs themselves a Kevin. And because you will get to a point where you're like, shoot, I just don't know how I'm going to pull this together. And I need someone who knows how to do this. I'm going to see if Kevin can help me. And Kevin's like, yeah, man, let's get together on a call tomorrow night and we'll knock that out. And next thing you know, we knock out some beautiful, glorious looking thing that just is like, holy cow, man. It looks like it came from a top tiered Fortune 10 company that they're like, it's not going to get any better than this, that type of quality stuff. So everybody needs themselves a Kevin for stuff like that. My story is a little bit more involved, but I'll take you all the way back. When anyone asks me about it, I kind of align with a lot of the stories that I've heard of guys on our podcast when we ask them that same story, because there seems like there's a pattern, a trend that goes with it. And mine is similar. So mine goes all the way back. I've always been an innovator, builder, inquisitive into tech and how to build things. And so when I was a kid, I kind of started seeing this when I was about 10, and I was like building science projects. I'd build all kinds of things and be in the science and things like that, right? So my first science project was the classic volcano blowing up using chemistry and doing stuff like that, right? But I went quickly from that to building a laser. And I did a lot of research and worked with the physics department at a local university and talked to them about building a very basic laser. And built one at home and did that as a science project. And was interesting how what I learned from it and how it worked. But when I was about 12, now 12, between that 12, 13 time frame is when I started to become more aware about what computers could really do. And how it really started for me was there was two things I was really interested in. Um, uh, Aerospace engineering and computer science at the time. And so I'm like, hey, I want to model airplane and I want to learn how to fly. And my parents are like, that looks a little suspect. Do you really think you can do that? Like, yeah, I can do that, because you would build it yourself and fly it and do all the stuff. So I showed them what I wanted. They went out to J.C. Penney's or wherever it was because they saw it in catalog, bought it and brought it home for Christmas. It was supposed to be a Christmas present. And we didn't have a lot of money either. So to get something like this was a big deal. So they brought it home and they're like, opened the box and saw this wood. It's like, balsa wood doesn't show up like other very sturdy wood. So they're like, you're going to build this thing and fly it once and crash it, and then it'll be done, and we will lose all that money. So they took it back. And I'm like, what? No, you can't do that. And I'm like, fine then. If you don't want to buy that for me, then buy me one of those home computer things. And I told them what I wanted, right? And so they did. And they bought me a TI 99, I think is what it was then. One of the very, very first like home ones you can bring home.
It's
And
like a Tandy or something.
no, it wasn't a Tandy. It was a Texas Instruments, but it was their 99 4A. Now, here's what was interesting about that particular model. It was the only one that I know of, before even the Commodore could do any of this stuff. It's the only one that was very modular. It was built to be modular. So it had ports on it, and those ports allowed you to extend it. And so they sold other peripherals that you could buy to extend it. And so I ended up buying this extender box that had this big cable that would plug into a port on the side. And I was putting cards in this box for memory, for speech synthesization, for my my tape drive recorder. I could modularly upgrade this thing, right? Which was unheard of back then. But I was doing this stuff. So I learned basic computing and networking using this system when I was 13 years old. And then I started writing my own code and teaching myself how to write code and building graphical games and things like that in this solution. So fast forward now, I've learned all this stuff. I'm like, yep, I'm going to college for computing, blah, blah, blah. But even back then, we had Hector Monsegur on our podcast, and he was talking about this, about the things you would do when you're inquisitive. Well, I was so inquisitive back then. Who would have known that the stuff I was doing back then would actually be called hacking later on in a lifetime, right? I was finding bulletin board numbers and just calling these phone numbers and getting a message. I'm like, yeah, I could talk to that. And I plug it up to my computer and I start hacking into it and seeing what I could get, right? And we were doing this. I was doing this constantly. Every weekend I was doing it, right? I had a computer shop down the street. This guy didn't know a whole lot about it. He was just trying to sell stuff. And I'd go into his shop and teach him some things and sit down and connect to on his bulletin board system and start pulling down code and talking to people on bulletin board systems and modifying all kinds of stuff, right? So you fast forward now, you think about how much that process and the thinking about the inquisitive thinking about figuring things out and trying things out translates into the world of what we do today. So it started for me way back when I was 13, and it worked out along the way. So I went on from that to a computer science degree, graduated, and then had careers in higher education where I did a lot of stuff at a higher education level. But I wrote one of the very first online registration systems, one of 5 in the country at the time for higher education for universities. There was only 5 universities that had them, and I wrote one of them. And then I wrote one of the very first electronic ticketing systems in the country, graphical ticketing systems. And then I did a bunch of stuff, engineering things like that. So fast forward now, I was the CTO of a company, sold our company, and now I've started my own company that's an AI company to do more things around AI, see what we can do.
Yeah, very cool. So hopefully that success you had building those other applications out will translate into what you're doing now. So that's good
It always
that you got
does.
that
Yeah.
background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always does.
Especially now that you can benefit from it since you're the one actually building it instead of building it for someone else.
Exactly. That was one of my goals in life. I'm doing it later in life, but one of my goals in life was to actually build something that I could benefit from, not just doing it for other people. Because I've built a lot of things that other people have benefited from. I finally want to just do something that really pays it for my own benefit. Right? And we'll see what that happens.
Well, and I've challenged Jason too. I've said, "Hey, look, dude, I'm already kind of tired of working for the man in the corporate world. So I'm leaving it up to you to start the business that's going to get us both rich. And then once we get there, we're retiring, millionaires,
No
and then we're
pressure,
gonna,
Philip. Right? No pressure.
yeah, no pressure. I mean, just make it happen."
Well, thanks to Jason's parents, we know Jason because if they would have kept the airplane,
Right.
he would have been flying for American Airlines or something. We wouldn't know him.
100%,
Yeah, he
100%.
would have been the next Sully.
100%. And they had no idea what they were doing. Dude, I was actually going back on that same story. The first application I wrote with it, the very first one I wrote was an application to track the amount of money my dad was paying in taxes throughout the year. So my dad would come home with his pay stub. I would take that pay stub and I'd pay it all in to my application and I'd save it to my cassette tape drive and I would load it up the next month. I'd load it up again. I'd get his paycheck. I'd tie it all in. And at the end of the month, I could run some code that would calculate everything out and show him everything that he was paying, what his take home was, how much he paid in taxes, all of that stuff, right? And I showed it to him. I printed it out and showed it to him. He's like, "Where do you get this from? Did you make these numbers up?" I'm like, "No, no, this is real."
It's like, oh my God, my kid's a nerd.
I should have got him the airplane.
Or a baseball mitt or something, which is funny because Jason ended up almost going pro in baseball later in life.
Yeah, I did play.
Oh,
I
very
did
cool.
play college baseball. So
Yeah. Yeah, I could see you playing pro. You look like you got the athletic ability for it.
yeah, I did that
Yeah,
for many
until he
years.
blew a knee out,
I
right?
blew a knee. That's right.
That's the crazy thing about this stuff now. If you would have been 10 years, 20 years younger, they'd have repaired you, you'd been good as new.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
There's so much different now, Phil. I just had this conversation over the weekend. So the two big things, the eligibility requirements are 6 years now. Where when I was in college, you only got 4 years of eligibility and you were done, period. You can be eligible to play for 6 years now. So something like that, you blow your knee out, you can take a whole year off, recover,
hmm
come back solid and strong, and then start over again and still get your full time. And I just didn't have any of that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a different, even medically things are different too. I actually blew that knee out twice. And the second time I did it was 10 years later. And when I went in 10 years later and had the procedure done, the recovery time process. So the first year, it was a year recovery. The first time I did it. The second time I did it, it was like 6 months fully recovered. And the procedures that they put you through were totally different. And so, yeah, I mean, it just that's just a testament in 10 years of how far the technology has gone. Man,
That's
it'd be
incredible.
crazy now. These days, it's so easy to get back from
and
it.
then you figure like stem cells and stuff that
Yeah.
they're using to heal people faster.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
back when I was in high school playing football, there was a guy on our team that had a knee injury and he was done. He could never play football again. But you imagine nowadays, it's not a big deal. They can pretty much recover just about anything. And back then, knee injury, back injuries, you were done and you had issues the rest of your life.
Yeah.
hmm
I think we still have issues the rest of our life. But
Yeah, maybe not physically, but
like you get older and then you have issues like Kevin that you have to deal with.
They're pains, but they're more pains in the ass, right?
Yeah.
So, I kind of want to pivot a little bit into podcasting. What inspired you guys to get into podcasting?
Man, we've told this story a few times, and Jason, I think you give a really good rendition of this, so I'm going to hand this one to you.
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple of things that came together all about the same time. One of the big things was Kevin had been hounding on me for several years. So Kevin and I worked together in the same industry. Kevin's company was a customer of mine, and Kevin and I found ourselves on the same technology committees in the industry because we were both just passionate about technology and driving it forward and making a difference and doing things. And if you're vocal and you're always talking and you're always doing things and they actually are positive and they're moving an industry forward, people are going to lean on you over and over and over again. And that was happening. Well, in that same process, while we were doing this, Kevin was harping on me to do more. And I'm like, dude, come on, I don't have time to do all that stuff. He's, oh, but you need to do more in cybersecurity. You would love it. This is where you need to be. And I'm like, I don't know, Kevin. So he harped on me enough. I'm like, fine. So I started studying, moving forward on my CISSP, and did that whole practice, got that in place. Well, in the meantime, my company also had gotten hacked at the same time, and because I had a pretty deep background anyway, I knew everything I needed to do. I quarantined, ran forensics, was able to identify point of origin, reverse engineered and figured out what was happening, and was able to quarantine some stuff and right size it and attack this, do a not reverse attack, but kind of defend ourselves against it so we can recover. And we come out of this hack, and I'm pissed now. I'm really fired up and pissed because it's like someone just breaking into your house thinking they can take all your stuff and damage who you are, right? And so if there was ever a moment in my life where I thought this is a pinnacle turning point for me, that was it. Because it was a thing that pushed me back to believe in the skills that I have to succeed. And in that moment, I realized I need to be a part of helping other people understand how they can use their skills to defend against this craziness that's been happening. So at the same time, Kevin and I have been talking, and one of the things we did was we went public with it. We talked to our customers and we said, this is what happened. This is how it happened. These are the things we've done. We are confident that this isn't happening again, and we know what the cause was, and we know how to rectify that so that won't occur. And even then, it was unheard of. No one wanted to talk about it if they got hacked. It was hush hush. We did the exact opposite. Well, the flip side of that was people get hacked, right? We all know that. And those same people then were coming to us and saying, hey, I don't know if you know this, but so-and-so, they got hacked last week. They don't want anybody to know about it, but we're going to bring you in because do you have guidance that you could tell us to help us with this, right? Industry to industry. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So this stuff was going on for a while. And Kevin and I had been presenting together on some things. And then we kept getting asked to do more. And we was like, hey, can you guys maybe you guys could speak at this conference or speak at this one within the industry. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, we can't go everywhere and speak at all this stuff. And so Kevin's like, hey, I got an idea. What do you think about doing a podcast? I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't have time to do all that stuff. He said, no, man, I think you're missing the point. It would be a lot of fun. And he harbored on me for a while about this. I'm like, fine, let me think about it. And so he said, okay, here's the thing. Let's do it for a month. If we try it and we don't like it, we'll be done. If we like it, we'll keep doing it. And I'm like, okay. Now here's the theme. The theme is Kevin's always harboring on me to push me to do something. Always. That's how this always happens. And I push back for a while until I can't. And then I'm like, let me try. And then we try it and then we do it. And this is what happened. We tried it. And our first episode was not good.
No, no.
But we had a lot of fun. We laughed so much.
Still
man.
out there, by the way, if anybody's
is.
interested. Episode 0.
We laughed so much building that thing. And we were like, dude, this was so much fun. Let's do it again. And then we did another one and another one. And they just kept being so much fun. We would, in those moments of recording, the process of recording and coming up with ideas and adding value and coming up with unique ways to bring the content just made it so much fun for us that we would have a night of enjoyment just building the thing. So it just kept going. And now we're going to be entering season 5 coming up this year.
5, yeah.
Yeah.
No, very cool.
Which is changing. a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you wouldn't mind sharing what you can about what you're changing this season.
Yeah, so we're actually in our off season right now. So the way Jason and I have always kind of done it is, the new year rolls. We get started around late February, early March, and we go. And we had this, first year we didn't know how many episodes we do. We ended up doing 14, and we thought, well, it was not that painful, and we got better at editing and things like that. So the next year, for whatever reason, that became the magic number. So we've always tried to hit 14 per season. And at the end of this season, we we came up with some ideas, but we didn't want to implement them mid-season. So we said, all right, let's hang on to it. Let's shelf that. And let's look at that in the off season and consider what we can do to make it, infuse that into the format and make it cooler. So some of those ideas are going to come to life this season that will kick off here probably in, I don't know, late February, March, as we usually do. And the idea is to almost treat the episodes like storytelling with, like, if you're sitting there and you're reading like a graphical novel, or imagine this high action, high drama comedy or comic book or something like that. That's kind of more of the format we're going to be going for, with still a lot of back and forth and the occasional guest. We're going to still do the guests. It just won't be as heavy focused on the guest. They'll provide their input and things, and we've got some really cool stories that we feel would be interesting to tell in this way. I've never seen it really done this way. And we just think it's going to be a really cool format. It's going to be a cool change. It's going to make it more fun for us, more exciting. And I'll be honest, it's going to challenge our skill sets from a creativity standpoint, which is why I'm getting excited about it, because I know that's going to require more work, more effort. So there is a good likelihood that the number of episodes could drop a little, but the end result's going to be so much better.
I think
Oh, that's cool.
the thing here too, Philip, is he didn't say a true crime format. He compared it to a graphic novel or a comic book, right? And that's because of the graphic nature that we come from, trying to find unique ways to present content and educate people. Because what we do, like our podcasts aren't training people. We're not doing it to train people. We're doing it to educate people, and educate people that on a broad spectrum, from cybersecurity practitioners to C-suite executives to average person who wants to know more about technology, right? It's a broad spectrum that we're trying to educate, give information to, and how we bring that information matters, right? How people interpret that and receive it, that part matters. And so we're trying to come up with unique ways beyond what we've seen, but that have elements that we've seen that people identify better with, and bring those into the podcast and see how it will work. If it doesn't work, then we'll change again. But we think it'll be interesting.
That's awesome.
Definitely
It's
be
always good
challenging.
when you can try to think of ways to improve upon what you're doing. And the thing is, it may be challenging now, but just think once you kind of get used to it, it's your
Yeah,
standard
you get in the
workflow. It won't be
flow.
as difficult. And so, yeah, I'd be looking forward to seeing what you guys do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I mean, I'm really looking forward to it, because some of the stories that we've decided that we're going to tell this season are cool stories, in and of themselves. If you were just to come on and record, and Jason and I go back and forth and just tell these stories, that'd be kind of interesting already, because the stories are so cool. But the added graphical elements and things that we're hoping to put into it to make it more content rich is really going to make it.
Yeah.
So is Vito going to make an appearance in any of the episodes?
Vito is still alive, and Vito is going to be popping
Very
in.
much alive.
He's going to be popping in this 2026 year in different places.
Didn't Vito came back from Vegas with you, right?
Yeah.
He came back in the
he's
Jason.
shacking up in my damn basement, man.
Yeah.
So just for the folks that don't know who Vito is, if you would mind explaining to the audience about Vito.
Yeah, so We did a live show at Boardwalk Fight, right?
Boardwalk Bites.
Boardwalk
Yeah.
Fights this past year in 2025. Great conference. They're really getting going. I think they're going to grow even more this year. But in that live podcast, we had two guests. And our first guest, it was on cybersecurity risks in quantum computing. And our first guest has his PhD in quantum computing, wrote his dissertation specifically in algorithms. And so that's what our conversation was around is about algorithms and quantum computing, how they're going to change the effects of cybersecurity and what are some of the things we need to be aware of. And our second guest was Vito. And so Vito, the backstory on Vito is the real backstory on Vito is my AI company built a virtual person that we call Vito, a character, an agent. And this agent was given all this knowledge about quantum computing and cybersecurity risks, as well as our podcast and other podcasts in the CCM. And we were going to use that Vito character to ask questions on the show. And so
live in the presentation, we were going to let the audience members actually ask Vito questions.
Right.
That was really
and Vito's
cool.
interesting because what's unique about Vito is he's been tuned to have his own personality. And so we gave him a personality of a Jersey Shore person and have a hard Jersey accent and was knowledgeable about a lot of things on the Jersey Shore. And so our backstory for Vito was to our audience was, 2 nights ago we were in Jersey and we were walking the strip and we ran into this. We were talking about the show and this guy overheard us and he's like, "Quantum computing, man, I love that." And he's like, "Dude, I could tell you all kinds of stuff about it." And so we were like, "Great, why don't you just come on our show?" But he couldn't show, so we had him on a phone call. And so we brought him up and we would ask him questions during the show, and Vito would answer, and it got hilarious because there's a timing effect with these AI agents. You talk, and then has to wait for a pause to know when you're done talking, just like humans would talk, and then it would start talking back. Sometimes it would start talking over you because it thought you was done, but you wasn't quite done yet, right? So it would only get part of it. So our guest was asking it a question, and he was struggling to get his question out. He's like, Vito, and Vito would say, "Yo, Sanjay, come on, man, ask me the question." So he's like, "Yeah, okay." So Vito, and he comes back and says, "Yo, Sanjay, what the what? Come on, man." So its personality was really coming in to the conversation to answer the questions. But then when it did answer the questions, it was very detailed from a standpoint of coverage, right? It was answering the question to cover the answer in detail, but not oversaturated with all these complexities. And so it was easy to understand a very complex problem by answering the question. And so when we did our Vegas show at Black Hat this year, we decided that we were going to make Vito a little bit more live. And so we made a cardboard cutout of Vito, of a real person that we call Vito, and he has a big gold chain on him that says Vito. And we stuck Vito, this cardboard cutout of Vito, at the show. And you could go, and on this cardboard cutout, there was a text QR code and a phone number QR code. And you can just scan the QR code and either call them or text with them, and you can ask them questions and learn more about the show and things like that. So that's how we use Vito this past year.
That's cool. So now you gotta build a robot.
Yeah. Oh, that's a tall task, man. That'll take me forever to get going, but that would be fun.
I believe you could do it.
It's background in building drones, racing drones.
That's
A
true.
lot of that same technology would apply.
Yeah.
Very
That's
cool.
another backstory. I actually built a robot back in those days
wow.
when I did my when I was learning computing and all that stuff too. I did that as a project too back then when I was, I don't know, 14, I think I was. And I forgot all about it. And my kids that are now grown were visiting my parents back in Louisiana. And I wasn't with them, right? They were on their own. And my kids were like, "Yeah, man, grandma was telling me about this robot that you built once." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot all about that." But it was pretty detailed, right? Because I figured out how to create my own custom joysticks, and I had it wired into this thing. I did all this wiring, and I drive this thing around the house and made it move and did all this stuff. And I bought all these parts off of this scientific, wasn't a website, we didn't have websites, but scientific catalog that I had access to because I got this catalog from the local university's physics department. They hooked me up with it. So I had direct access to all this scientific stuff that I could get. And I was ordering all these parts and building this robot. I was 14
As
years
he's
old.
freaking his dad out, his
Yeah, they're
parents are
you
like,
think about it now, man. I look at I see my
what
kids do
have
stuff.
I created?
Yeah, I see my kids do stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, where did they come up with this before? I had to be shocked with my parents because they would have seen nothing like this before. This wasn't like you could just go out and see robots in places or see lasers and all this stuff. They had no idea what I was doing. It was like, what is this guy doing? So
I guarantee you, Philip, you'll get this reference because you're basically our age. But do you remember in the back of the comic books when we were kids where they would sell the sea monkeys?
Yeah, the sea monkeys and the X-ray glasses.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, Jason had sea monkeys.
I did.
Yeah,
'Cause
I did too.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt.
Yeah, those things were cool.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of funny to find out later on because my dad was big into fish and all sorts of pets and stuff. And he used to go to this one pet store and some of the food for some of the saltwater fish were brine shrimp. And that's actually what the sea monkeys were.
Yeah.
They were brine shrimp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
It's
we'd
funny
had
how
sea
they would-
monkeys before. And it's like, man, we could have got it cheaper.
Yeah.
And you saw the pictures that they would illustrate on the back of the comic books.
Yeah.
Looked nothing like these little things that they
No,
shipped you.
not
And
at
you're
all.
like,
Yeah.
what the hell did they send me? I
Yeah.
got ripped off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. But but it is. Here's the key that goes together with all this stuff, because this is the kind of where I kind of figure out, like when I'm looking at hiring technical people, these are some of the traits I'm looking for. I think back to even some simple things like it's a combination of, being poor, not having a lot of money, having to be resourceful with everything that you do and still solve a problem. So for the wheels on this robot to move, what I did was I cut wooden circles out of wood, and then obviously that wouldn't work because there wasn't enough traction. So in order to give it traction, I found a chemical component. It was like a clay component that I can buy that when heated up, it'll form a solid in that form and be rubberized. And so I was able to put this around each one of these wooden wheels that I made to create a rubberized layer around the outside of it. And it didn't cost me a whole lot of money. And then I had wheels that had traction and I would use them. And that's how I did it. Right. So that deductive thinking, that way of thinking outside the box, and something that ways you can solve a problem and still make it work without breaking the bank, those things matter. And so the more of those types of traits you can come up with to find solutions, I think it just makes a solid, developer or problem solver for anything that you're trying to do.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to discuss with you guys, because I know you were involved in the IAM Machine documentary. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind discussing that.
Yeah, Kevin, you want to elaborate on that one?
Yeah, well, so this was a brainchild of our good buddy Chris Glandon, Chris from Barcode Security, who is also a member of our Cyber Circus network of podcasters. We've become real good friends with him, and he reached out sometime early last year and said, hey man, thinking about doing this is his second, because he's kind of an indie filmmaker, I guess, kind of an upstart indie filmmaker, and he's just really into that. He's been into that for years, but now he's actually doing these documentaries. The first one he did was called Inhuman, and it was about the impact of AI back when AI was just really starting to heat up and become an everyday topic. But he said, hey man, I'm thinking about doing my second documentary, and I want to do it on transhumanism. I said, oh, that sounds cool. And he said, I want to feature Lynn No. I'm like, okay, that's really cool. Because Jason and I had just met Lynn through Hutch, our other good friend, and another Cyber Circus member, Justin Hutchins. We had met Lynn through Hutch at Chris's Barcode event in Vegas during DEF CON last year. Not last year, year before. And so we got to know Lynn and understand a little bit about his story. I never understood how much of Lynn's life I was going to really understand until I got into this editing of a documentary. Chris comes to me and he says, "Man, you're creative with stuff like this. I want you to help me build a trailer. Just help me with the trailer." He knew what he was doing. He was socially engineering the hell out of me, and I didn't even pick up on it. And he says, I just want about a 2-minute trailer so that I can tease this thing while I'm figuring out how I'm going to do all my editing and everything. And we'll just see how this goes. And I said, yeah, I mean, I've done intros for podcasts and done a bunch of pretty cool stuff in editing that's 1 minute, minute and a half long. This is right up my alley. So I did it. We put together the trailer. It turned out really cool. We started teasing the documentary with it. And he says, "Hey, how interested would you be in taking on the rest of this?" And I'm like, "You talking about the whole thing?" He's like, "Yeah, man, I'm kind of on a budget issue here, and I really need to get this thing out. We need to get it done by DEF CON." I'm sitting here thinking, there's no way in hell we're going to pull this off. Not by DEF CON. There's no way. Because Jason and I, we're still running our podcast. We're still trying to do all these other things that we got to stay ahead of. And I told Chris, I said, "Man, I don't know if I have the time, to be honest." And he said, "Well, I'll tell you what, if you'll just take a stab at act 1, I knew it was 3 acts. He said, then if you don't like it, if you don't feel like you're cut out for it, or it's something that's just too much for you, I'll pay somebody to go edit the rest of it." And I said, "Oh, all right, man." I reluctantly accepted that offer, knowing that it may be something that I'd regret, but ultimately, did act 1. That took the longest, obviously, because you're trying to figure out everything. And when we got done with it, we both watched it and we're like, "Man, that's actually pretty freaking good, dude." And I'm not to brag on my editing skills, because my editing skills are really kind of crappy, but the end result ended up cool. And it's a combination of all the hard work they put into planning for this thing and doing these location shot interviews and all of the work that went into in drone shots and all of these cool epic um, uh, camera work that you have to have all that and a good story to have anything worth working with and editing. And all of that stuff was already done and it was there. So all I had to do was kind of take all these good pieces, and it kind of worked out really well because Chris is real good about cutting up things and saying, "Okay, well, this is the story I want to tell. Here's the pieces we need to tell that story." And he'd already gone in and done all that hard work ahead of time. So, we did that. We worked together on it, and ultimately act 1 turned out really nice. He didn't even have to ask me about act 2. We just got started on it. And at the end of the day, we got back, and it was about July 4th. I remember this vividly because he was coming to Texas so that we could work on 1 act together for a week. And I knew that was going to be about the 1 month away from DEF CON deadline we had. And I said, "If I'm not at this point by that week when you come down, we are screwed. Because there's no way I can take off work for this, and I can't, wasn't going to put life on hold for it." Well, ultimately, we almost had to put life on hold because we got down to about 2 weeks, and I'm like just stressing out hard on whether or not we were going to get this thing done. And we ended up knocking out, and we had about a week to spare. And Jason knows we did the big premiere in Vegas. Our good friends at Fulcrum helped us. We rented the venue called Starbase, which was an amazing venue for something like this. We went out there and we did the premiere. Vito showed up, and it's a lot of fun. And I think we had a great turnout. I don't know the exact number of people there, but it had to be close to 150, which was our goal.
Yeah.
And it got great feedback. We've since been, I say we, because like I'm a big part of it, but since then it's been nominated for 3 indie film festivals already. It's been accepted into them, and we're in our 2nd round of approvals to possibly get in the Cannes Film Festival. That would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
We got past the 1st round, which is kind of like they weed out all the weaker films immediately, and they said we got past that round. So while we're not there yet, fingers are crossed.
Yeah, still a success no matter how it turns out to get this far.
Man,
So
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much fun.
yeah,
And, we're about to show it again here in North Texas.
I'm going to be pumping up Glenn and Chris to consider his third film. We started talking about it already, but his third film being the origin story, hacker origin story, and to weave origin stories of the CCN members throughout the storyline of this. I think it could be amazing, an amazing story of that starting from nothing and nowhere, like you don't know what you want to do, you're just kind of figuring things out, then landing somewhere that has high value, high reward on an individual basis, and what that looks like for the hacker and the hacker community.
Phillip, I'm hearing this for the first time, Phillip.
No, he's not, Philip.
Am too.
No, he's not.
I have not heard this
He
story
was
yet.
too drunk. He was too drunk to recognize it the first time we talked about it.
I don't even.
that's awesome. Yeah, so it's really cool the way the documentary turned out, because I mean, Chris's first documentary that he released at DEF CON was really good, but just the quality, the editing and stuff. So it's really I think it really helps that he had someone like yourself that does content, does cybersecurity content, compared to just getting someone that just purely an editor or whatever. So I think that brings an extra level to it. So
Well,
you guys did a great job.
yeah, Chris knew exactly what he was doing, and he knew what he was getting into, because he knows, and he's very much this way as well. And like most of us are, we're extreme on steroids OCD perfectionists, and we weren't going to release a shitty product. That's one thing we knew we weren't going to do. We didn't know how well all the story would be told at the end of the editing, but we knew the product was going to be amazing. And ultimately the story is amazing. Ultimately the end result was great, and we're very proud of it, and we're proud to have had it nominated for a few of these film festivals. If we don't win any, like you said, we don't care. We've already won. It's been a lot of fun. And it got us an opportunity to hear Lynn's full story, his background. We just all became much closer friends through the experience, I think.
Very cool. So we're getting down towards the end of the episode. Is there anything you'd like to share before we close it out?
Yeah, one big thing coming to town. I know today is about a week from when this episode's going to probably drop. We are having an event that we've had. This will be our third year to do this. Phillip's mentioned the Cyber Circus Network. We get together with the guys and we do this event in North Texas, and this will be the third year of it. Typically it's a live podcast event, but this year it's going to be a little different. We're going to do a North Texas documentary screening, and we're going to see Lynn's story. This thing is not available online right now. You can't just go out and watch it. So if you're not going to one of these live events to see it, you're not going to see it for a while, because it's still in the process of going through these festivals and trying to be picked up. So we would love to pitch that. Anybody that happens to be listening, Phillip, I know you got a broad audience, but I know a big part of that audience is in DFW because of where you reside. Anybody in DFW area that's listening to this is going to be an amazing event. And again, hosted by our friends over at Fulcrum. We've rented out the Palace Arts Theater on downtown Grapevine on Main Street. It's going to be amazing. Good networking. Come out, meet some cool people, and hear a badass story while you're there. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. I can't wait.
Yeah, and it is
Cool.
about the community, right? Bringing together the hacker community in a space that everyone can just be and learn something, right? And talk to other like-minded individuals. So we're looking forward to it. It's exciting times. Hope you guys can all make it out.
Very cool. Yeah, thanks for taking time out. Look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Absolutely, Phillip. Can't wait.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you on the next episode. Make sure to subscribe, and also subscribe to the Cyber Distortion Podcast, which you can find on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform.
Absolutely.
Until next time,
sir.
take care.
See ya.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Phillip Wylie Show. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, to learn more about Phillip, go to thehackermaker.com and connect with him on LinkedIn and Twitter @Phillip Wylie. Until next time.